The greatest hazard to ships at sea is fire. Most fires start as small ones. They should not be allowed to grow. The larger they become, the more difficult they are to control. This program deals with the basics of firefighting and the action to be taken when an incident occurs, with fire extinguishers and their individual uses, and with general firefighting techniques. Let's begin with the three main elements of a fire: fuel, heat, and air. For a fire to occur, these three elements must be present at the same time and in the right proportions. It follows from this that firefighting means removing one or more of these elements as quickly as possible, effectively putting out the fire. Removing fuel is known as fuel starvation. Removing heat is cooling. Removing air is referred to as smothering. Modern technology provides various methods of putting out a fire by a chemical process known as fire inhibition. There are a number of techniques used for each of these measures, and some which apply on board ship are described in this program. The basic approach to firefighting is contained in the letters making up the word fire, F-I-R-E. F stands for find it, I stands for isolate it, R stands for report it, and E stands for extinguish it if it is small enough for one portable extinguisher. If not, E stands for escape. Fortunately, the basics of firefighting are common to any type of ship, and regular drills should be held which will involve the special precautions and measures applicable to your type of ship. Turning to portable fire extinguishing equipment, there is a wide variety to be found on board ship. Sometimes they are coloured red, whatever the content, or they are colour-coded in one form or another. The whole cylinder may be painted the code colour, or there may be a band of the code colour carried on the equipment or its label. In any case, they should all be operated strictly in accordance with the maker's operating instructions, and these instructions must be clearly displayed. The most common types are water extinguishers coloured red, which operate on the basis of cooling the burning substances below their ability to sustain flammability. The apparatus is very suitable for dealing with fires involving flammable solids of the carbonaceous category, such as wood, paper, bedding, curtains, the sorts of things you see when you look around the average mess room or cabin. These fires can quickly become deep-seated, and water has the advantage of penetration, which aids the effect of extinguishing by cooling. Foam extinguishers are of two basic types, chemical and mechanical. In the chemical foam extinguisher, the foam and the propellant are made by mixing the two separate chemicals within the extinguisher. This is done by turning the extinguisher over and shaking it. The mechanical type utilizes a premixed foam, which is expelled by CO2 gas from a cartridge, activated by means of a plunger piercing the seal of the cartridge. To extinguish a flammable liquid fire, the foam is directed onto a vertical surface so that it can flow over the entire surface of the burning liquid. Or if the fire is in the open, the foam may be directed into the air to fall gently onto the blaze. Foam must never be aimed directly at the surface of the liquid. If the liquid temperature is high and the surface is penetrated, the water content in the foam will rapidly expand into steam within the burning liquid and may produce a boil-over effect, such as you see in the extreme case when water is directed straight onto the burning oil. An advanced form of foam is AFFF, aqueous film-forming foam, which has considerable penetrating power and is also very effective on flammable liquid fires, as seen here. An AFFF spray extinguisher is suitable for most types of fire. AFFF is also used in fixed installations. The aqueous film effectively seals the surface of the oil. Consequently, reignition is less likely. Its penetrating properties are even superior to those of water, so it can be used on deep-seated fires involving carbonaceous material. The foam extinguishers are rechargeable quite readily with ready-mixed foam material. A new CO2 charge is placed in the container in the mechanical type. The same procedure is adopted when AFFF is used. CO2 extinguishers contain carbon dioxide gas under pressure and are activated by removing a pin and pressing the trigger. They can be stopped and restarted as required. The charge may last for about half a minute, depending on the size, and should be used economically and efficiently. The CO2 acts by depriving the fire of oxygen and may be used on fires involving electrical conductors, such as this TV or the radio room. CO2 has some effect on flammable liquid fires, but may not be effective on carbonaceous fires, as there is little or no cooling effect, no penetration, and they are easily dispersed. See the poor effect on this fire, and the effect of the water extinguisher on the same fire. CO2 is non-toxic, but being deficient in oxygen will not support life, so it should be used with caution in very confined areas where the user may be deprived of air. Dry powder extinguishers knock down the flame very quickly, the dry powder chemically interfering with and suppressing the process of combustion, acting as a flame inhibitor. Normally used for liquid or gaseous fires, they may also be used for other types of fires depending on the powder type shown on the label. To activate, you either strike a knob or use a plunger to pierce the seal on the CO2 charge. The CO2 is used solely as the propellant for the powder, and when activated, the gun or nozzle can be turned on or off as required. You see the rapid knockdown effect of the dry powder here. They can also be used safely on fires involving live electrical conductors, although they have no cooling effect and lack the penetration of water. Special powders coat carbonaceous material and prevent continued combustion. There are also special powders for metallic fires. The powder extinguishers are relatively easy to refill, with measured amounts of powder and new cylinders of CO2. If only part of the extinguisher is used, it should be recharged. As with any extinguisher, make sure that any remaining CO2 charge has been released before dismantling. There are also larger types of powder extinguishers, semi-portable, ranging from a 23-kilogram trolley for positioning by the manifold on a tanker up to a 67-kilogram wheeled unit for use in the engine room, for example. To recap, extinguishers colour-coded red contain water for fires involving carbonaceous materials like furnishing, for instance. Cream-coded extinguishers contain foam for use with liquid fires. Black extinguishers contain CO2 for use on fires involving electricity. Blue-coded extinguishers contain powder for use with all types of fire dependent on powder type. There are other types of extinguishers of the vaporizing fluid type using halons such as the BCF or Halon 1211 and the BTM known as the Halon 1301. They work on the principle of chemically interrupting the process within the flame. They must be used with caution in confined spaces because toxic products are evolved when the gas is in contact with the flame. In fact, the use of halon gas in firefighting is being phased out, and no new ships are fitted with this system for environmental reasons. Environmental concern over the ozone-depleting characteristics of halon has led to manufacturers of fire-suppressing systems considering optional systems. Some drop-in replacement gases have been produced which have lower ozone depletion characteristics and, also important, a lower global warming factor. New systems using alternative gases have been produced as well. Successful fire tests have also been carried out with the use of water in the form of a fog. Microscopic-sized water droplets are propelled into the fire area to absorb energy and cool air and fire gases. In 1992, Marioff won a Safety at Sea award with their patented high fog system. Originally introduced as a lightweight replacement for sprinkler systems, versions have been developed suitable for the protection of machinery spaces and electrical switchgear. Many fixed installations now use CO2, stored in large cylinders which are regularly checked for level. Before their use, for example in an engine room fire, everyone must be evacuated, the alarms sounded, the area sealed off and vents shut. Then the CO2 is fed through outlets into the area concerned. On many ships, the flooding is by foam, stored in huge tanks and run to strategic points around the engine room or direct to mobile applicators on deck or cargo areas. Low expansion foam, which expands by 8 to 10 volumes, is in use here and is also in portable extinguishers. High expansion foam, expanded up to 1,000 volumes, is sometimes carried for large enclosed spaces such as cargo holds, peak stores or pump rooms. Dry powder fixed installations are widely used in LPG and LNG ships for fires involving liquefied flammable gases. The installations are generally large and are sometimes backed up by mobile installations for more localized use. Of course, water is the most abundant firefighting medium available at sea, but it obviously has to be pumped to the hydrants. At least 2 main pumps must be available for this purpose, with a third, the emergency fire pump, located away from the engine room in case the main pump should be put out of action or be inaccessible because of fire. The design of a ship's firefighting installation must provide sufficient water for 2 jets to reach any part of the vessel normally accessible to the crew. To be ready for use in an emergency, hoses must be correctly rolled up. 2 methods are seen here. On the bight, often called the Dutch roll, and the normal roll. In each method, the hoses are laid out, then drained by a crew member walking along, holding them at shoulder level. Hoses are tough, but shock can damage them. Hydrants must be turned on and off gently to avoid sudden surges of pressure. For firefighting on ships, the variable jet spray nozzles are most commonly used. Before the nozzle is turned on, it should be pointed down and away from the fire. The nozzle can then be turned to spray and then to a fine wide water curtain which protects the operator as he nears the fire. The nozzle can then be turned to concentrate the water into a spray with an arc of 60 degrees. This will both tackle the fire and provide some protection. On some ships, a nozzle is available with turbine-driven revolving teeth. This nozzle is very effective as it produces very fine droplets and can be adjusted to whatever spray pattern is required. It can then be turned on and off. A solid cone of spray provides better protection than a hollow one. The object with the spray is to make the finely divided drops of water reduce the heat of the fire to below the ignition temperature of the burning material, whilst the blanket of steam helps to seal off the fire. With a fire, wherever possible, attack from the windward side or where there is the least smoke. Never direct the jet straight into the fire, as this may spread the burning material. Before opening a door to a fire area, first feel the heat of the door with the back of the hand, up and down, and then the handle. If you think from the temperature that it is safe to open the door, remember that the fire in the room may have generated a quantity of explosive vapor, which, when in contact with the air as the door opens, may flash, perhaps with explosive violence, throwing the door outwards. Also, flames tend to billow out from the top of the entrance at the same time as cold air rushes in from the bottom. So keep low and on the hinged side. And if the door opens towards you, keep your shoulder and knee against the door as you slowly open it. If using, for example, a dry powder, start the extinguisher immediately the door is opened if flames are present, and use with a sweeping movement. If a door to a fire is open, close it to contain the fire and deprive it of air until you're fully prepared. In fires, keep low. Not only can you see better, but even if wearing breathing apparatus, you will suffer less quickly from heat and steam. Especially when working in smoke, try to feel your way ahead with your feet. Keep them flat on the deck, not lifted up as in normal walking. Turn the hose off from time to time to allow the steam to clear, giving better visibility and less humid heat to cope with. This is what you see sometimes in a real situation, as visibility in smoke may be only a few centimeters. In smoke, keep down low. Feel the space in front of your face before you advance by waving your free arm up and down in front of it. Always keep contact with your teammates and keep contact with the bulkhead to avoid being disorientated. To search a larger space, keep contact with the bulkhead, hold hands and stretch out, feeling forwards with your feet. When chucking out the bight of a Dutch rolled hose, lay out the bight away from the fire. To get down a ladder, lower the hose with a closed nozzle to the bottom of the ladder. First member of the team down must wait until his teammates are down before he hits the fire, or steam may go up the hatch and scald his companions. When working with BA, constantly check gauges, especially before going further into a space or down a ladder. Work as a team and look after each other. Always warn others of any obstruction as you advance. Keep low, even in breathing apparatus, as it may be possible to see further under the smoke layer. The manufacturer's recommended maintenance should be followed, for example, the replacement of O-rings. Most manufacturers now produce sets where very little on-board maintenance is recommended. Successful firefighting depends on the basics being observed and put into practice. Sound the alarm promptly. Give proper information. Muster without delay. Know the right equipment to use, where it is kept, and how to use it. Be conscientious about the drills. They may save your life. And always remember, by far the majority of shipboard fires could have been extinguished and not developed into major fires if in their early stages they had been reported and tackled correctly. The Videotel Marine International program you have just seen is one of a series of 4 on firefighting at sea. Program 1 deals with fire prevention. Program 3 with command and control at the incident. And Program 4 with command and control by the master. For further information, consult the publication Marine Firefighting and Prevention.